For people who live in close proximity to the current oil and gas boom in the U.S., what are the health risks? It's a question people are asking from Pennsylvania to North Dakota, from Colorado to Texas, as more and more communities find themselves in the midst of unprecedented energy development. Our Inside Energy team met with health researchers, scientists, and engineers to learn how oil and gas drilling affects your health and to clarify the confusion about the issue. A Colorado-based research collaboration, the first of its kind, is bringing more than 40 experts together to study natural gas development from all angles and to understand the risks and benefits. Joining me now is Jordan Wirfs-Brock, data journalist and reporter for Inside Energy, which is our regional reporting collaborative. Jordan, the headline on your story online is great. It says if you read only one story on health and fracking, read this one. Let's start with fracking fluid, because right there on the video or on the page is a video of Peter D., a big businessman in natural gas, drinking some fracking fluid.
Yeah, he's a natural gas executive, and he's not the only one who's done this. Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper has also famously sipped fracking fluid. And this is just an example of some of the theatrics and kind of things that people do to shape the public perception about whether this fracking fluid is safe. And on the other side of that, anti-drilling activists will sing songs about that, and we included a video in the web version of the story. There's this folk song of a guy singing, listing all of the hundreds of chemicals that you can find in the fracking fluid.
And he put that to music.
He did. And the main point of this is that there's all kinds of information flying around. There's billboards about this, there's songs, posters, videos, and it's really hard to figure out what to believe. And we really wanted to kind of cut through all that information, talk to scientists, figure out what's actually going on. And with fracking fluid, on the one side, people in the industry will tell you that 99% of the fluid is just water and sand. That sounds pretty harmless, right? On the other side, activists...
1% could be the devil.
Exactly. That 1% matters if you're looking at it from a health perspective. On the other side, activists will say there's hundreds of chemicals and they like to list them because they sound scary. But what scientists have done here in Colorado is they actually look at that list of chemicals and they figure out which ones are harmful to humans, which ones can actually travel through the environment, through the soil and get into your water, and which ones actually stay around a long time and so can actually pose a health risk. And they've cut that list down to a couple dozen chemicals that we actually need to look at. So in this case, there's a lot of hype, there's a lot of theatrics, there's a lot of alarmism, but the truth is always going to be somewhere in the middle.
You did write in a two-part series about how difficult it is to do research about oil and gas. Why is that?
Well, it's a very politically charged issue, as we just talked about, and that can make it really difficult for scientists to find funding to study this, because they have to worry about being reliable and about their reputation. And if they accept funding from the oil and gas industry, then people will say, we can't trust the work that you're doing. So it's very challenging to find funding to study this. Also, it takes a lot of time. The research cycle is something like 3 to 5 years for them to do a study and then publish it and have it be peer reviewed, whereas industry happens so quickly, and this is a case where industry kind of happened and then the research is just now catching up. Another reason it's so hard to study is that it is so complex. So this drilling is happening in the real world. It's interacting with the atmosphere, with the hydrosphere. It's interacting with other pollution that's already there.
Oh, yes.
So it's really just a challenging topic to study. And if you try to isolate one chemical or one factor that could be harmful to someone's health, you have to think about how that one factor sort of plays in with all of these other things that are already happening in the environment.
We know that the oil and gas industry, at least initially, did not want to be publishing what was in their fracking fluid or be very transparent, frankly, about what they were doing with this method for extracting natural gas. Where does that stand in Colorado now? We know those ballot issues have been pulled as well.
Right. So it's my understanding that in Colorado, companies do have to publish a list of at least most of the chemicals that are in the fracking fluid, but there are some that they can still claim are proprietary, so are trade secrets. But actually, what's a bigger concern than the fracking fluid itself is actually air pollution, so what gets into the air. And that's something that people don't tend to focus on.
That's right, because everybody thinks of groundwater.
Yeah, people talk a lot about groundwater, and they're worried about their water getting contaminated, but actually it's a much bigger concern what gets into your air. And there's all kinds of things that get into the air. There's dust from trucks driving by, there's dust from the actual drilling and construction equipment, and then there's actually emissions from the oil and gas that's coming out of the ground itself, so it can leak through valves and pipes and things like that. So it's actually really air quality that we should be most concerned about in this case.
When you talk about leaks, that makes me think of another thing that just happened recently, where in the oil and gas rules, the state is going to require everybody to fix their leaks. So there will be less of that?
Yeah, there was another study that actually showed there's a lot more leaking than we ever realized, and it's coming through the pipes, through those valves, through the equipment. So not just at a drilling site, but anywhere that the oil and gas will then travel.
People, of course, have moved closer to all of this. It's not like it wasn't going on before, but now people are paying attention. And you, as you say, there's a lot of hype, there's a lot of disinformation or misinformation. What do you see this research collaborative being able to do to maybe shape public perception?
Yeah, well, what's really interesting and exciting about this particular collaboration, which is called Air, Water, Gas, is that they're focused on helping people make decisions. So they're doing all this research, they're compiling it, but they really want to make this information useful so that a community can actually figure out what the facts are and then make their own decisions, weigh the risks against the benefits. Because the natural gas industry, like any industry, it has economic benefits, but then there's also health risks and other things that you have to weigh. So it's all about making informed decisions for communities.
Well, this is a very fascinating topic, and of course, much more to come. Thank you to Jordan Wirfs Brock.